You're listening to the REITE Club podcast, where the focus is all about helping you grow your real estate investment portfolio and live the life you want to live. Come grow with us and join our community at thereiteclub.com. And now your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.
So welcome, Sarah. We're back for another Mind Estate segment.
I know. I'm so excited to be here, and welcome back, REITE Club Nation. We are excited. We are doing another Mind Estate segment with a really successful investor, aka now retired investor, still investing, but retired his job, and now is doing his passion and working also as a realtor. And he's got so many other great things that you guys will hear about. But the really cool thing is when you're investing in real estate, you're doing it because you want to eventually have that freedom. And so we're going to be talking to Gary Hibbert, who has created that freedom for himself and his family. But before we get into that, Laurel, what's new with you?
Well, we're just working really hard here at the REITE Club, and we are so excited about the our online community. By this time, as you're listening to this, this will be up and out there, and we really hope that if you haven't joined us, that you will. All you have to do is go to thereiteclub.com and fill in your profile, and you're a member, right, Sarah? It's that simple.
It is. I'm actually really excited. We've been working long and hard to bring you a whole online community with lots of different ways that you can connect to other investors, to other people that you're going to want on your team to get that team of experts, but also potentially find some JV partners, some money lenders, some off-market properties. I mean, this is going to be awesome. Super excited. If you guys can take a quick look, let us know what you think. And also, if you can rate and review our podcast and let us know what you think, that's also greatly appreciated. But with that said, guys, I'm super excited. We've got a great winter and spring lineup of wonderful events as well. If you're live in the Burlington area and you have not come out yet, come out, send us an email. We'll get you in for free for your first time, complimentary. Send us an email at sarah@thereiteclub.com or Laurel@thereiteclub.com. And if you are a returning member and a returning listener, thank you, because without you, we would not be here. So it's really awesome to have you guys. But with that said, Laurel, you want to bring us into Gary's interview?
Well, I am really excited to have you guys hear Gary. He's just such a nice guy, and you can tell that he's very caring, that he's passionate about what he's done, but he's more importantly than that, I think Gary's passionate about his life. And for him, real estate has been about creating the life he wants. So when he talks about mini retirements, I think people are going to sit up and take notice, because nobody wants to work all the time. And we certainly don't get up in the morning because we have to go to work. We get up to go to work so that we can do the things we want. And that's what Gary talks about.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, let's do it. Let's go to our interview.
All right, here we go.
Gary, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am great. Thank you guys very much for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. And last time that you were actually, I believe it was either I was on your podcast or you were on my podcast, and you brought up the concept of mini retirements. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like the smartest, most interesting thing ever. And you have to come on and talk about it. But before we do that, I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Laurel Simmons. Hey, Laurel, how are you?
Great, Sarah. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what Gary has to say about mini retirement and all that kind of stuff, because who wants to wait till you're like 75 and dead?
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, where did I come up with the concept? So back when I was getting ready to start Smart Home Choice, because I was just tired of my 9-to-5 job and I needed a better way to secure my financial freedom. When we started Smart Home Choice, and our kids were much younger than, I think they were maybe like around 5 and 9 or something like that. But I knew that it was going to take a lot of time away from them. So what I did was I went out and I bought this Bristol board. Okay. And so what I did was I wrote Smart Home Choice in the middle. Okay. And I said, listen, guys, and I actually sat right here in this office here. And I said, listen, we're starting this company and we're going to try and help people and we're going to help ourselves. And it's all about real estate investing. So what do you guys want to see from this? And so we drew an arrow from each of them in another little bubble, and it's okay. Well, we want to help 1 million people. Like, all right, cool. What else? We want $10,000 coming in a month. That's it. Now, how about 30? Okay, cool. And so we kept on doing all this. They wanted a mascot, and so it was fun for them because they felt like they were part of the business. And then we said, well, how much vacation do you guys want a year? And they said, we want 2 months. And I said, how about 4 months? And they said, yeah, let's do 4 months. And so that's where it really all started back around 2009, 2010. And so what we've done pretty much ever since was in July and August, we actually shut down Smart Home Choice. And then right now we're in another hiatus, which is December and January. And so now that allows us to take a break, refocus our energies, see where we want to take our business, and then take vacations. And so, like I said, I just came back from Playa del Carmen. It was great, right? And I'm going to Spain in January with my daughter, and then me and my wife are going away in end of January. So it allows us to do that.
That's awesome. That's a concept. I feel like that's also in the 4-hour work week, but you're probably one of the only people that I know that actually takes the concept and runs with it and lives with it and makes it successful, because you've got a busy life. Like, you're a realtor, you're hosting podcasts, you're doing so many other things. You've got, investment group as well that you educate on a monthly basis.
Right.
So how do you go away for like 4 months? And it's not at a time. I think you do little vacations, but how do you manage everything like that?
Well, I think the most important thing that you got to do is you got to put processes in place. If you don't put processes in place and systems in place, things will fall apart. I think they say that even the smartest person without a plan will fail. And so for me, I said, okay, listen, if I'm going to do this, I need to make sure that I have a plan. And one of my early mentors, when he sat down with me, he goes, so what's your plan? And I go, I don't know, I'm trying to do the Smart Home Choice thing. And he looked at me and he goes, you're 35 years old and you don't have a plan? Do you know how ridiculous that, when I heard it, I'm like, that sounds so ridiculous, but I was also upset that he said that to me. But then the next day it really sunk in. I'm like, I don't have a plan. And so if you take a look in the back there, that's my whiteboard. And so me and my wife, we design our life. Every single year and around this time, we'll take a look at what we've accomplished. We'll put check marks beside it. We take a picture of it. We'll file it down in our filing cabinet, put all our goals again, whether it's business or personal, and then we design or plan our life out throughout the whole entire year based on what we've written down. So we design it, and then we put systems in place and processes in place.
Very cool. How do you do it with 2 kids? Like, do they leave school and do you homeschool them, or are they, how old are they now, and are they able to leave for that time period?
Yeah, well, my daughter's 18 and my son's 22. So they are much older now. So it definitely does help. But I mean, in the beginning, they again, like I said, they knew that it was taking time away from them. They understood that, but they knew that once, July and August hit, it was time for us to spend more time together, to go to Wonderland, to take trips, or just to hang out and watch movies or whatever it may be. Right. So I think again, it comes down to, designing that life, and anybody can design it, right? It's just, you got to actually put, paper to pen. Right.
One of the things that strikes me, Gary, when I listen to you is that when you talk about going away and spending time away, but I think that there's a deeper level to that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for those of us who have busy lives and who run businesses, and I don't care whether you have a business or you have you have a job or whatever, we all need time to replenish and re-energize, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. You need to. And not only that, you also need to be able to refocus to find out whether or not you're actually still on track. So even though, like that whiteboard, this is an important piece here as well too. So even though in December we write down everything that we want going into the next year, come halfway through the year, we will actually revisit it, which is called kind of like your mid-course correction. And so let's say, for example, you're going to sail to England and you set your sails, get everything all set up. Halfway through, at least midpoint, the winds are going to change. You're going to get some waves. So you've got to readjust and reset those sails. And so we're always kind of keeping an eye on that. But more importantly, not only is it just good to have that whiteboard, but I also have an agenda that I work through as well too. And so this agenda that I work on in here is what ties very closely to what's behind me. And so I always try to tell people that the best way to look at a whiteboard is very similar to going into a restaurant and you look at your menu and you say, hey, look, I want the steak and the potatoes and the carrots or whatever it may be. What is the likelihood of your food coming back to you? Like it's pretty high. That's the exact same thing with that right behind me. It's like placing your order to the universe. And so, I think in the beginning, it can be a little bit difficult, but I think you gotta stick with it. And I don't know how it works. I don't need to know how it works. I just know that it does work. 100%. Because I remember, here's when it really hit me, was I remember in 2011, I wrote down that I wanted 4 investment properties and I had no idea where I was gonna get the money from. And at the end of the year, I had 4 investment properties. And then I was like, oh, I get it. It has nothing to do with money. People think it has to do, it has to do with learning how to attract money. So once I became attractive, I'm not physically attractive, but once I became attractive, meaning that people saw what I was able to do, then the money came to me.
Yeah, you're talking about what I call, and what I've learned from others is it's worrying about the cursed hows. The how doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, because the how, you'll figure it out. You can spend hours, days, weeks, months figuring out the how. But if you don't know the what and the why, the how doesn't matter, right?
The why is super important. Super, super important.
So how much time do you spend working on your why then?
I spend, I would say, like throughout the year, I put a lot of time into it. I mean, I see my whys all the time, which is my wife and my kids, and so I'm always seeing it every single day. Right. Again, I go back to the whiteboard, right? And so I put my whys up there. I remember when I first bought my first 2 investment properties, and I was like, man, how am I going to do this? Like, I just really didn't have the money. And so when I heard the concept, make sure that you have a very strong why. So for the very first investment property, I put my son's name. I said, this is for my son's education. So then now, if I don't get that investment property, I am now failing my son's education. So then there's no way you can stop me. And so for the second property, that was for my daughter's education. So again, that why is so super strong.
Absolutely. Are you able to share some of the things that are on there right now for this year? I mean, nothing too personal, but are you able to share a couple of things that you put on there and how detailed they are?
Yeah. So on the business side, I mean, I wrote down that I wanted a podcast room. And so we were actually looking to move. And then, I don't know if you guys know this or not, I think I might have talked to you, but anyways, a brokerage approached me and said, hey, we see what you're doing. We would really like to have your investment company be a part of our brokerage. How would you like to be a part owner? And so now I'm also a part owner of a brokerage, which is the first brokerage that actually has an investment arm in it, where now not only am I training real estate investors, but I'm also training realtors on the importance of real estate investing so that they can now turn around and help their clients. And so it now goes to that big concept of help as many people get what they want, and you can have every and anything you want, which is Jim Rohn. So that was one of them. And so I didn't end up having to move because now I have a podcast room in that brokerage, which I'm currently working on and getting that all set up. So hopefully you guys will see that next year. I write down, how many members that I want to get for the year for Smart Home Choice. On the personal side, I write down how many vacations we're taking. I write down, what type of car that I want to drive. So every and anything that I want, I'm putting it on there. And I actually, if you can see, there's a line right in the middle. So I actually do separate it from business and personal.
Now, do you do these for the year, or do you set up like 5 years, 10 years down the road, or is it more immediate 12 months out?
It's 12 months. It's 12 months out. And now for the 5-year goals, I will put that in like, say, like maybe like a journal or agenda, but it's not something that I look at all the time. Because for me, I think it's just a little, sometimes I think daunting when you start taking a look at that 5-year goal. So I'm more focused on that 1 year. Cause again, you know, people are like, oh, well, I want to retire in, you know, in 5 years or 10 years. But I think as long as you're doing what you love, then you never have to retire.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I believe, you know? And so for me, I hate going to bed and I love waking up. And so then that means for me, it's always like a race against time. Like, oh my God, I only got like, you know, an hour left, right? And I gotta get all this stuff that I need to get done. And so it's that's when you know you're living your dream, right?
I think that, I mean, one of the things that I really resonate with is this whole concept of retirement, maybe for our parents and our parents' generation and their parents, retirement, life was a lot different then, right?
It was.
You retired at the age of 65 and life expectancy wasn't that long. So you knew that by the time you were 70 or 75, you weren't around. But that's not the way it is anymore. So a lot of people have no intention of retiring.
Yeah. And I think it's just a different concept now, right? I think we live in a different world. We live in this world where everything is 7/24. I mean, remember there was a time where you would have like a Sunday off? Like nothing was open, you know, but you live in a world now where everything is open. You know, you got cyber sales going on and you can buy every and anything you want at any time. And we've got so much more information that's coming in from, like, I mean, I look at my phone, I got stuff coming in from text messages and Messenger and Instagram and Facebook. And so with all that bombardment of information, you need to take more breaks. I really think so. I think people, you know, if not, you're going to get burnt out, especially if you're doing something that you don't love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's interesting though. So like, what would you say the mini retirements look like? Like, give me an example of what you're going to do next year as an example, and how you take those mini retirements, how long, you know, what you do, how you shut it off, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So for next year now, look, I mean, I'm in it right now, and we're not going to start back up again until really February. But during that time, yes, I'm taking vacations. Yes, I'm relaxing. Yes, Netflix does come back on again. But we're also planning as well too. So it's not all, you know, like it's not like as if I'm not working at all, but it is definitely more of a light workload. And how I'm able to do that for myself is also too, don't forget I have a team. So, you know, we do work with lots of investors, and so those investors are still going out and looking at homes, but I'm using and utilizing the strength of my team as well too. And so for me, I'm not working in my business, I'm doing more work on my business. And so in the beginning, is it easy to go ahead and start doing mini retirements? No, you have to put those processes in place. So I've worked in the different, you know, areas of my business, from being the realtor and writing up the newsletters and getting things set up in Eventbrite. And so I've done every aspect of my business so that now I understand it, that I can now start to farm this stuff out by having an admin and other realtors and different aspects of the business.
You know what I think a lot of people say though, because I've heard this, people say to me, well, I don't have the money, right? That sounds really good, but I don't have the money, or I don't trust someone to do what needs to be done. Like I have to do everything, because first of all, I can't afford it, and secondly, I don't trust that somebody else will do it as well. So, like, what's your response to that?
There's only 24 hours in a day, so you can't do it all. So you have to get comfortable with getting uncomfortable. See, the one thing that's always constant is change. And so you have to be able to embrace change. You have to be able to embrace leveraging and using other people's. And look, it comes down to being able to leverage other people's strengths and to give your strength as well, to creating that win-win. But you have to get uncomfortable. You have to. That's the only way you're going to grow. You can't, I mean, like, you know, what's the concept of like a caterpillar turn into a butterfly? I'm sure that's a very uncomfortable feeling, but that's where the beauty is. That's where growth is. right? And so when people get into that situation, and let's say now they really do, for sure they're going to make mistakes. For sure they're going to have problems. 100% things are going to go wrong. But here's the best way to look at a problem. Every problem that you're given is a gift. And so you have to now learn, what am I supposed to learn from this particular problem? Because that's going to allow you and give you the tools that you need to open the next gift or problem, whatever you want to call it. But you're never going to be able to open the next one that's bigger if you don't learn this one here. And so when you take a look at, I remember I was talking to somebody about this, that I remember when I was 16 years old, and who knows what it was, I got in some kind of problem, or I was talking to somebody and I was like, God, if you can just get me out of this problem, I swear I will always go to church. I will never, ever, I remember that feeling. But when you look back at it, that wasn't that big of a problem. It wasn't that big of an issue. And it was just giving you some new tools that you can use. And so, you know, when you look at people that are very successful, they're just good at opening bigger gifts, or bigger problems, and it gives them newer gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's funny, even just as investors, you yourself, like, what's a problem now is probably a much bigger problem. If you had that problem in the beginning, it might have been like a catastrophe, right? Yeah. Or a little tiny problem now would be a huge deal before. But I think it's just like you said, you just evolve, and then you just get used to it. You open a bigger and bigger problem, and then you just resolve it. But, you know, it is interesting to look back and say, when I first started, these were my problems. Now I'm like, meh, you know, like you could fix it within like a few phone calls for the majority of the things.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes. And then now you become skillful, where you can also start to help other people with those problems that you had in the beginning.
Right? And sometimes we look back at the problems we used to have, and we chuckle and say, oh, geez, I wish I had those problems now. Because we've solved them over and over again, and we moved on to other challenges, because as you say, that's the way we grow. So but let's go back to some of the, like you said that you set time and you actually developed your goals or what you wanted to do. So can you give us some of the actual mechanics? So I think people will be interested in that. Like what exactly do you do? How do you set up, like how much time do you set aside, and how do you go through that? What process do you use to actually figure out what it is that you want to do over the next year?
Right. So you mean like what is a day-to-day or a week-to-week kind of
planning? Like how do you figure it out? Like, what do? Do you sit with a whiteboard? Do you lock yourself up for 2 days? Do you cover the wall with sticky Post-it notes? What
ask your kids to just give you a bunch of answers and you put them down?
Yeah. So really what we do is we again, I think we sit down. I got like another kind of whiteboard here. This is more like a high level overview of what's happening on a day-to-day basis with investors that we're working with, what agents are working with them. But here's what I do. We do the whiteboard. That's the foundation. Okay. The very next thing that I do, I guess I'll show this to you so you guys can see it. I think this might help you. And maybe for your viewers as well too. So this is where I live in. My agenda. So if you take a look, I got my to-dos over here. I really don't care about the times. Then over here, I've got urgent, personal, and then urgent, okay? Now, the important thing with this, if you take a look, okay, see how everything's highlighted in there, okay? Highlights, when you put your stuff down on paper, and when you're highlighting, you know what a highlight does? It actually, it's like getting like a like on Facebook. It actually releases endorphins, okay? So I'm giving myself likes all the time, because I can take a look back and say, wow, look what I have accomplished throughout the whole entire year. So when I take a look at the columns, the to-do would be, maybe reply back to an email or whatever it may be, but it's not really that important to me, all right? Because replying back to an email is important to somebody else, but not really that important to me, okay? Right. Then the personal stuff is, I got to go pick up some flour for the wife because she's going to bake tonight, or whatever it may be, just personal stuff. And then the urgent, this is what I work on throughout the week. That has a very close tie to the whiteboard. And so if I don't get this done this week, well, then now I'm falling behind on my vision. So that is what I work on. So if it's a new podcast or finding like a speaker for the next mastermind event, or taking a client out this week, whatever it may be, that is what I live in, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you can call it something else, you know, some people say, well, you shouldn't call it urgent, but to me it is. I need to get this done this week. And then here's the important piece. So once I'm done for the week, because obviously I'm not going to highlight everything because I always dump everything in here. And there's 4 things you can only do with something. Either you do it, you defer it, you delegate it, or you delete it. And so once I'm done with that week, I'll go to the next week and I'll take a look. Okay, now what am I bringing forward? Was there anything on there that I can delete? Or can I delegate this to one of my agents or to an admin? And so this is pretty much what I do on a day-to-day basis. That's how I'm able to accomplish what I've accomplished. Very simple, but super effective.
And for those of you who are just listening, Gary actually uses a paper-based agenda. You have a big book, and you actually write it down.
I write everything down. And then when I'm in the car, I still use Siri, and I say, hey, Siri, set a reminder to whatever. But then when I get home, I will then take that information from here and then dump it into here. So I never rely on my memory.
That's a great strategy. So I have a question about delegation, because I love delegating things that I'm like, is this worth my time? Is this going to be my, best use of, whatever the next hour? And if it's not, I try to find a way to delegate it. What are some of the things that you delegate? Because you're away a lot on vacation. You said 4 months out of the year. You probably have to, delegate quite a bit to your team or different things to, I don't know if you have assistants or any of that stuff, but talk to us about what you delegate that is like the busy work that you're like, if I had to do this, I probably wouldn't get my 4 months off.
Working with the investors. That's the big piece, right? Work with investors, taking them out, looking at homes, because at the end of the day, Smart Home Choice is a service-based business. The brokerage is a service-based business. So that's really important. And also too, I'm not sure if I talked about it in this podcast here, but the private lending company that we have, which is Deep Pockets, I don't do a whole lot in that space. I've delegated that out to a very smart mortgage agent that if anything comes in, it just goes right over to him. And he manages that for us. And so again, it's always about systems and processes. I think, where I learned that from? I think, before anybody becomes an entrepreneur, especially if they're working, really take a look at where you're working and look at, like, if it's a large corporation, look at the systems and processes they put in place. Like TD Bank, I worked in the IT department. Their systems and the processes they had was incredible. And so in there, I was part of the incident management team. Then after an incident, then it became a problem, which is, okay, well, what happened? What's the root cause? And then there would be a change. And so a change would cause an incident. And so once I understood that and dealing with major problems, putting those systems into place into my business helped tremendously, right? And I'm sure there's people that are listening that work for companies. Just make sure you see how they do things at a large scale, because then you can incorporate that at a smaller scale. And then when it's time to grow, you can.
Absolutely. Processes and procedures are the way to go. So It sounds like you've got, so many great things. And I will say that, or maybe I should just ask you, but real estate investing, is that what helped you get to your 4 months off every single year as an investor yourself? Or is it your business, or is it a combination of both?
It was real estate investing. Here's a reason why, is that with real estate investing, it helps you grow money while you sleep, number one. Number two, see the inflation number, like how they talk about like 2 or 3%.
Yeah, it's BS.
Oh, for sure, 100% it is. Now, I'm sure maybe if you live in Nunavut, that might make sense, right? Because the homes aren't going up that much. But if you're living in the GTA, that doesn't make sense. And so people are using this Canada-wide number for a market that they live in, where homes are going up 5, 10, 15, some years 20%. And so if you can't outpace that, you're never going to get ahead. And the best way that I've found is through real estate. I mean, look, I think they call it real estate because it's real. You can feel it, you can touch it, it's tangible. And then they call them landlords because, back in the day, they're lords of the land. And so it's not the home that's appreciating, it's the land, because God's not making any more of this, or whoever you believe in. And so it's about owning land. The more land you own, the better off you're going to be. And then from there, because look, I don't like real estate, right? It's boring. It's bricks, it's mortar, like there's nothing exciting about it. What I fell in love with is what it's allowed me to do. That's the key. Real estate's boring. Let's call it what it is. Right?
Yeah, it's the financial freedom of now being able to say, what do I truly want to do with my life if money is a non-issue, and if it's a non-issue, and I still have my health, and so like we say this a lot, it's not the bricks and mortar, it's what it does for us.
Right.
We could not get trading our time for dollars.
Right. It's allowed me to create the lifestyle that I want. And so now it's allowed me the ability to help other, not just investors now, but like also realtors as well. So my goal is just to try to help as many people as I can, and just be like a beacon. Right. And so if people can see what I'm doing, and like, hey, what's Gary doing? I'm more than happy to share what I've learned over the years, because here's what sharing does as well too. Is number one, it solidifies what I've learned. It makes me understand it better because I've said it now 4, 5, 10, 100 times. And number two, it also allows for new information to come in so that I can then share that again. And that's what it's really done for me over the years, is just the sharing has allowed me to be where I am today.
Absolutely. And I will agree too. That's a great concept. So we could keep talking about this. I'm very, very passionate about all this topic, but the next part of our podcast is our lightning round. So we're going to ask you 4 questions. Laurel and I will take turns. And then because this is a mind estate segment, the questions are a little bit different. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Question number 1, Gary, what do you do typically on a random Sunday morning?
The very first thing that I do is I'll wake up. I roll out of bed, because if I can't hit the gym, I will do 30 push-ups, and I'll do about 50 sit-ups just to get the heart rate going. That's the very first thing that I do, and then I'll go downstairs, have a coffee or have a tea, but I won't look at my phone. I won't log into the computer. I won't do any of that stuff. I'll either go outside, enjoy the weather, or if it's cold, maybe just turn on the TV for at least 15, 20 minutes. I usually like to find some type of a documentary, something that piques my mind, but that's usually what I'll do.
Okay, so here's another question. What's one thing that you will grab as you head out the door? And let's say it's not your phone. It can't be your phone. I'm changing up the question a little bit. It's not your phone.
Okay. One thing that I will grab. Oh man, that's a tough one because everybody grabs their phone, right? I'd actually rather lose my wallet than my phone. I will take a look at my phone and then I'll figure out what podcast I want to listen to. I guess is that an answer?
Well, we'll take it.
Yeah, because when I get my car, that's my library. So I'm always thinking about what can I listen to next. So I'm grabbing, a podcast.
All right, cool. Next question. What is your favorite nonfiction or business book?
Man, there's lots. I would say, Stephen Arneo's Money People Deal. Yeah, I really like that one. It was, sorry, did you say non-business?
But that's okay. It's still.
No. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Sorry, non-business, you said, right?
No, business book or nonfiction. So that could work.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay. Now, how about this one? This one might make you think a little bit.
Yeah.
If you had your choice of meeting anyone in the world right now, who would it be and why?
So I didn't hear the first part. Say it again.
You had your choice of meeting anyone in the world right now. Who would it be and why?
Who would I want to meet? I would probably want to meet. Man, these are tough questions. There's so many people that I'd really love to meet. I think I would probably want to meet today. I think Grant Cardone. I haven't met him yet. I haven't actually seen him live yet. He's a very interesting man from his childhood to where he is today. And so I'd like to sit down with him on a one-on-one, because I'm sure what I might learn from him on that one-on-one might be a little bit different from what he shares, maybe, on the stage.
Right. That's true. Because then he can tailor the conversation.
Yeah. Based on the questions that I asked.
Right.
But I did meet one of my mentors that I really always wanted to meet, which was Les Brown, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was super exciting. It really was.
I
was nervous.
I heard that was a great event. Unfortunately, I think I was away on vacation and I couldn't come, but it looked amazing.
It was good. It was a very good turnout. He's a fantastic mentor, teacher, trainer. So I learned a lot from him. And I picked him up from his hotel a couple of times. So I had some one-on-ones with him, which was great. And I think those one-on-ones are really, really important when you meet like a mentor or somebody that you look up to.
Absolutely. So Gary, if our REITE Club Nation wanted to reach out to you, where can they go?
So the best place to get a hold of me I would say smarthomechoice.ca. They can also send me an email, which is gary@smarthomechoice.ca.
All right. Any final last words of advice?
Yeah. Take action, whiteboard, and agenda. Those are the three things. We'll do whiteboard, agenda, then take action. But that's the foundation. The foundation to success is that 100%. I've seen it, and I've seen it help for other people.
I really admire everything that you've done. Congratulations on all your success. And thank you for sharing your story, and also for having a podcast of your own and having an education club of your own, and really going and helping investors as well. And thank you for that, because that's huge. And for people starting out, to have somebody that they can go to in a club that they can trust, as well as ours, to have, yours on the East End as well. So thanks for all you do, and for hopping on the podcast and sharing your skills and your knowledge and education.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. I think what you guys are doing on the West Side is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I've been on the stage out there, and I've seen what you guys are doing, and I know what it takes to do what you guys are doing. You guys are doing it on a large scale. So my hat goes off to you. Keep doing what you're doing, and shoot for that mini retirement.
That's it. Mini retirement all the way.
That's it.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary.
No problem. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
So that was super interesting. Gary, I think, is like one of my idols, because he really made me think that it's not about retiring permanently, but it's about doing what you truly love, what you're passionate about, and those little mini retirements, just to get enough rest and relaxation, and then go back and have, 110% in something that you're actually passionate about, which is not a job necessarily, but he is just so inspiring. And what were your thoughts, Laurel, about the podcast?
Well, I think what struck me was that Gary loves to help people, but you can only help people, right, if you have the energy and the reserves, whatever that is. When I talk about reserves, it is energy, it's time, it's money. You can only help people if you have those for yourself. So Gary set up his life so that he has all kinds of reserves, so that he can go help other people create the reserves that they want and need for their lives. I think that was my biggest takeaway.
Absolutely. It's great to just, be out there and speak to people like Gary, get to know people like Gary. There's so much opportunity out there, and, all his little tips and tricks about the agenda and the blackboard and the goals and taking action. I mean, I started doing that not that long ago, but it really does work. If you just keep in mind what you're going after and write it down or put it somewhere, keep looking at it, set your goals, and you will get there. You will get there. But if you don't start, you'll kind of be all over the place, right? And you won't know what's important. You won't know what's urgent. You are going to get bogged down by the emails. And sometimes it happens to me too. You get so bogged down by the email, and you just got to refocus and look at, okay, what's the big picture? Is this helping me get to the goals? Yes or no, right? And that's essentially, sometimes I have to take a step back and consider that piece.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, his comments about focus were really like spot on as far as I'm concerned, because if you don't have the focus, and if you don't have the awareness of what the big picture is, it really doesn't matter. I mean, one thing that I do, and we didn't have a chance to talk to Gary about it, but often on my whiteboard, because I too have a whiteboard, instead of putting the to-dos list, like, oh my goodness, the to-do list. I hate to-do lists. I put on priorities. I just put priorities up. And that's for the week or the month. So when I'm sitting in front of my computer and getting lost in emails, as we all do, right? I'll look up at my whiteboard because I don't even have to turn my head, and it'll say this. And I'm looking at that priority, and then I look at what I'm working on and I go, wait a minute, what I'm working on has absolutely nothing to do with my priority. So stop doing it. He said the 4 Ds, right? Defer, delegate. So do it, defer, delegate, or delete
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So guys, if you're not going to do it, be a master delegator. I'm really proud to be a master delegator. Sometimes I'm just like, what else can I delegate? It's actually really fun, because then you're like, okay, now that I have this off my plate, I could work on what else can I work on to like really get to the goals. But
exactly.
I'm a doer and a delegator. I don't know if that's like an oxymoron.
No, the more you delegate, the more you can do.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. Do it, delegate it, and then otherwise delete it or defer it. Is that the other D, the defer?
Yeah, but you know what? If you're going to defer it, you might as well delete it or delegate it, because you're not going
to talk to Nancy Morris about procrastination. Actually, she's speaking as well. So depending on when you guys are listening to this, she's a great speaker, and it's going to be her second time on our stage.
Yes, exactly. She's coming up on a podcast. If you haven't listened to her, go back into the archives of our podcasts and listen to what Nancy has to say about goals and procrastination. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Laurel, for being a wonderful co-host. Thank you, REITE Club Nation, for tuning in to another week of the REITE Club podcast with a special edition of the Mind Estates. And guys, see you next week, and come and grow with us.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the REITE Club podcast and joining our community of real estate investors online at thereiteclub.com, where the focus is about helping you grow. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks from your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.